My name is Davina Ware with The Complete Leader, and I'm here with another episode of Ask a Coach. This is where you, our community, ask burning questions in your career, workplace, and leadership from our expert faculty. Today, we have with us Padraig, who is the CEO of TTI Success Insights Ireland, and he also coaches entrepreneurs and people building companies. Thank you for being with us today.
Very happy to be here, Davina. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we have another great question from our community that we'll have you answer today. And that is, I made it a point to diversify my team by hiring and adding members who have different backgrounds, perspectives, experience levels, and competencies. However, the different personalities are now clashing, and we have pockets of conflict across the whole team. How do I reduce this conflict?
Another great question from your network. I suppose I'd have to step back before I answer this and preface it by saying, when you build a team, the first thing one has to recognize is that the secret to a successful team, and I want you to imagine an American football team. If everybody was a back, it won't work. If everybody's a forward, it won't work. If everybody's in defense, it won't work. If everybody's in offense, it won't work. What we're looking for in a team is the sum total of the individuals work to achieve a common goal. And when I think of a team, it's very hard to imagine a team without imagining a goal or an objective. They're there to accomplish something. They come together to accomplish something. It can be a sport, it can be in business, it can be in philanthropy, it can be wherever, but they come together to accomplish something together. To do that, typically, this person is correct. We need a diversity of behaviors, motivators, competency, skills, education, background, maybe even genders and so on. We need diversity in the team because we don't need all full backs or all full forwards. We need a mixture. That presents challenges. Obviously, I'm going to give a couple of simple examples. If we hire somebody who's going to go out and create the future for us, i.e. the rainmaker, who's going to go out as a sole contributor and bang on doors and generate business and bring home the bacon. That's a particular kind of animal. Very, very different from the person they hand that piece of business to, who's now going to have to manage and deliver that project for the client. And that person is very different from the person over here who's following compliance to make sure that we're doing it legally and correctly and we're invoicing and getting paid and so on. And all those people are very different from the person who's leading the team, who's trying to manage the team. So when you look at this, you can see straight away, if we're going to build a high-functioning team, we need this diversity. So the person is right, they've done the right thing, they have the diversity. However, we can also see that this person who's bringing home the bacon and this person who is delivering the project, this person is doing compliance. In fact, they will have different ways of seeing the world, different ways of interacting with the world. Different things will be important to them. They will value that whatever happening, they will value it differently. One person is valuing closing the sale. One person is valuing delivering this effectively for the client. One person is valuing getting paid first and paying the bills and paying the other suppliers. So they all have different values. They see this differently. They're valuing different things in it. So by definition, there will be conflict. Now, we need to look at this word conflict and ask ourselves, is that a bad word? And the answer is yes and no. So, yes, if there's no trust in the team, and let me explain what I mean by trust. I mean by trust that each of these three individuals I've just talked about, for example, understands, one, the other person, understands their makeup, their behaviors, driving forces, axiology, competence, and so on. They understand this. They understand the need for this to be successful in this role. One. Two, they understand themselves. They understand their makeup, their profile, and what's important to them and what they need to be successful in the role. And so that's the first thing. They must have this understanding. So let's call it awareness of themselves, awareness of others. The second thing they must have is they must excuse me, they must what's the word I'm looking for? Honor the difference. They must recognize the need for this, recognize that a person's behavioral style, for example, and usually conflict comes from different values, different things are important to us, and then we communicate or articulate them a different way. So we communicate around things that are important to us. The other person doesn't understand because they communicate a different way, and different things are important to them. So we have to honor the difference and honor the people's intention. We talk about intention and impact. I'm sure you're familiar with the idea. The complete leader talks about this a lot. I'm the master of my intention. You're the master of my impact. And so we have to understand the intention is good and understands people's intention. The intention is good. Understand what each person is supposed to accomplish, the key deliverables of each role, why that person bring home the bacon, why they're here, why did that role exist, why we've hired that person, why this delivery person's here, why this compliance person here. Understand the need for these different roles. And in understanding that, value the person, value the roles, and honor the difference between them. When we do that and we hold each other accountable, we have the foundation of trust. Then we have the foundation of trust. And if there's trust here, so I know, Davina, what your role is and why you're here. And I can say you're actually accomplishing what you're supposed to do. Now, you're different to me. You come from a different country. You're different, you have different ethnic background, you have different gender, different education. I can go to this list, it's as long as my arm. And I'm very different from you. So we're very, very different, and that's required for success of the organization. Once I understand that and honor that difference and understand the need and the importance for us, we have trust. And I can hold you accountable. I can say, what are you supposed to deliver in your role? And you can say, what am I supposed to deliver? What is Padraig supposed to be doing on this talk, for example, answering this question? Is he doing it? Is he delivering on his part of the agreement? And have this peer accountability. So once we build that kind of trust, then we can have conflict, healthy conflict, where we challenge each other around, for example, our deliverables. Are we playing our part on the team, offense or defense? Are we doing the piece that we're supposed to do? I can't deliver an effective project unless you sell it correctly. If I sell it correctly and you don't deliver it properly, we have a problem. If we don't get paid and we don't follow the rules of engagement, we have another problem. So if we don't play our part and hold each other accountable, so we can have conflict around that, i.e. we can challenge each other and hold each other accountable and have conflict. Unhealthy conflict is when there's no trust. So there's no trust and there's ineffective communication. So I don't know who you are, Davina. You don't know who I am. So how can we honor each other? How can we each honor each other's roles, the things we're supposed to bring to the party? We can't honor it because we don't understand it. And if I don't know your deliverables and you don't know my deliverables, how can we hold each other accountable and say, yes, she's doing her job. Yes, he's doing his job. So in the absence of this kind of knowledge and understanding, there will be conflict and miscommunication and strife. So my advice to this person would be as follows. First, you must educate people. They must come to understand themselves and others. So their behavioral style, how they communicate, how they deal with problems and challenges, people in context, basic and system procedures, constraints. Number one. Number two, what they value, what's important to them, what engages them, like their driving forces, their competencies and skills. And so they need to understand these things first about themselves. Then they need to understand about the other people. So that's my point of departure. Then they need to understand each other's deliverables. So the key accountability statements, job profiling, benchmarking people as well. They must understand that and have clarity on that. And then you must build an accountability structure. And I'm a great believer in a peer review. Give you a simple example of this. A monthly meeting when everybody's to stand up and justify their existence to their peers. So it's not the CEO wagging his finger and saying you've done well or you haven't. It's you stand up, Davina, in front of me once a month, and up on the wall are your key accountabilities, the deliverables for your role, what success looks like and what you said you're going to do this year, this quarter, and this month. And you have to justify, I did it or I didn't do it. And then I have to stand up and justify myself. And then the other person has to. And we hold each other accountable. And when we start holding each other accountable, I think we build trust in each other, or not, or not. And if somebody isn't trusted, and if clearly they're not performing and not contributing, well, then we know what happens. So I think this is the kind of advice I think I would give to somebody around managing conflict. Don't think of it as conflict. Think of it as there are foundation stones that are missing. And if we put these foundation stones in place, understanding self, understanding others, understanding why the role exists, what the deliverables are, and holding each other accountable. If we do that, then we have the foundation of trust and we can move forward. Patrick McKeown's 5 dysfunctions of a team is a wonderful model for people to look at. And the foundation of that is absence of trust. And the question is, what does trust mean? Where does absence of trust come from? And from that comes conflict and all the things that we talk about, inattention to results and lack of success of the organization.
Got it. So it's about accountability, but also creating space for us to learn from one another, to be accountable to one another, and not looking at conflict as this big evil thing that we tend to go to. Because as soon as I see conflict, I think, I think something negative, something scary. But it's reframing that word as well.
Well, that word re is a good word. Re, of course, as you know, is Latin. And so re means again. So I want you to think of the word respect. I notice you're wearing glasses. Where do you think, what do you think is the origin, the root of the word respect? Give it a guess.
Oh, interesting. Spectacle.
Okay, so to see again. So respect, and re is looking back. So to look back, to look again, to park previous judgment and look again. So the idea of respecting people is a fundamental issue in this conflict. We have conflict when we don't respect. We don't respect typically because we don't see. Again, how can we look back? How can we look at somebody clearly if we don't understand, if we don't have the tools and the frameworks to understand the other person? So look at things like behaviors, driving force, competence, axiology, EQ, all of these things help us understand and reframe what's actually happening. Well, actually, Davina isn't giving out to me. She's just being this I, S, and C is configuration with these value systems, these driving forces, and these deliverables. That's all that's going on. It's nothing to do with me. And there's a great Central American teacher, Don Miguel Ruiz, and he talks about, he's a book called The Four Agreements. And the first of the four agreements is be impeccable with the word, which means don't lie to yourself or others. To do that, you have to have understanding. I have to be able to have a meaningful conversation, have a shared language with you. The second one is don't take anything personally. Nothing anybody says or do has anything to do with you. It's just a projection of their own reality. If we can understand somebody's behaviors and driving forces and so on, we can understand where they're coming from and their deliverables and why they are the way they are, and realize it's nothing to do with me. It's just a profile. It's just a way of being in the world. And then we can accept them and respect them and honor the difference and interact them effectively. His other two, for whatever it's worth, are don't make assumptions. Very important when we assume too much. And the last one is always do your best. Because if you always do your best, you'll never look back with regret and recrimination. But this thing, respect, look again, see again, look back, see something different, requires a shared language. So the management of conflict, healthy conflict is good. Challenging each other, holding each other accountable is good. Unhealthy conflict is bad. And the way you go from unhealthy to healthy conflict is a shared language, shared understanding, respect.
Excellent. Excellent. I have no further follow-up questions. That was a very well-rounded answer. And I'm sure that whoever provided this has a lot to think about and then implement with their teams. Well, thank you again for being with us today. And this wraps it up for this episode of Ask a Coach. We appreciate your time, Padraig.
And I appreciate you, Davina. Thank you very much.